which is Carolina Road. So Carolina Road in southern Suffolk. That's headed up towards, I'm not going to say Skeetertown, but it could be making a trek and a little bit of a turn here towards closer to Whaleyville or maybe even Franklin Junction. I would think it's probably closer up towards the Franklin Junction area here shortly.
Yeah, without a doubt, that is the strongest circulation that I've seen today showing up on the radar. And the issue here, as we look at this, is that you have a system now that is kind of not being impacted by any other type of storm. It has a little bit of a free area to breathe in. And what I mean by that is, as we look at this storm on the reflectivity, it's able to get kind of a flow in from the west side here and then some flow in from the east side. Still has some rain down to the south, but it's kind of unimpeded. There's no other kind of rotation that it's fighting with in its immediate area. So that system is one that I think we definitely need to respect as it makes its way north and west. And that's kind of unusual, these storms moving north and west. Typically in the summertime months, if we get storms, they kind of move northeast or maybe east. A lot of these tropical tornadoes move northwest. People who have lived here for a while may remember about 4 years ago, around this same time, we were dealing with the tornadoes from Tropical Storm Isaias. Now we're dealing with the possible tornadoes here from Tropical Storm Debbie. Similar areas, too, being impacted by this tornado threat today that were impacted by the storms back when Isaias moved through the area. So if you were impacted by those storms, unfortunately, these are kind of near you, not so much in downtown Suffolk right now, but in the general Suffolk area. Steve, I really think that warning that was issued here for the Windsor area, Boaz, the rotation just seems really weak for me right now. It's still there a little bit, but the bigger concern is that one that you're pointing out right now, this one, near Deer Forest Road. Which
I want to just go around right now and just point out some roads. If you live along the Deer Forest Road, which is kind of by that Carolina Road 32, Adams Swamp Road right now, you're kind of in where the worst of the wind would be. Roundtree Crest heads up to you. It's coming up your way in Cherry Grove Road. If you live in these areas here, Greenway Road, Roundtree Crest, Cherry Grove Road, we've got, again, on 32, which is Carolina Road, and Cypress Chapel Road. Please get to that safe spot, which is away from the windows, down to the lowest level, because the area of rotation now, which is farther down to the south, again, that's near to Cherry Grove Road as we speak, Adams Swamp Road, Deer Forest Road connecting to 32. We could potentially have some very damaging wind associated with this. As Ricky was mentioning, is a very prominent signature of rotation when you have these bright contrasts in colors here. And there's not much around impeding this from continuing to develop here. So we are going to continue with the mindset this is going to be moving along 32, so kind of drawing that line from the 32 corridor, the edge of the Great Dismal Swamp, moving north-northwestward here. Nerney up next, Whaleyville, in a broader sense. But if you are down that way, I mean, I would really get to your safe spot here as this thing is moving pretty quickly here, 40-45 miles an hour to the north-northeast. So Nerney in about a couple minutes here, Nerneysville, a couple minutes, Savage Crossing School, 234, Forest Glen Middle School, 237, headed up that way. And no update now from the National Weather Service, Ricky, on the specific warning itself, but this is likely going to get continued here because we haven't seen any inclination of this area of rotation broadening out, so to speak. If anything, it's just gotten stronger and stronger. So to do just a quick little reset, if we zoom out a little bit, we are talking about 3 areas of rotation here. We've got area rotation number 1, which is the one in far western Suffolk. That looks to be like it's fading away here a little bit. That's number 1. We're not too concerned with that. Number 2 is the one we are kind of prominently focusing on just east of Whaleyville. It should stay east of Whaleyville, but we just put a tracker on that to give you a point of reference. And then number 3, which is still farther down to the south, kind of near Acorns Hill, following along the same path as number 2. These may be kind of following in each other's path here along the edge of the Great Dismal Swamp. That's number 3. So we have these 3 little areas of rotation, which we typically will see when it comes to these bands of rain. If we flip to the radar here, just to get you a bigger picture, blow it up a little bit. Thank you, Brendan, here. Help me out driving radar because there's no computer out here in front of me. But these are the bands, the 2 prominent ones that we're going to be watching here for the rest of our afternoon. And the individual thunderstorms within them could help quickly spin up areas of rotation, producing some damaging wind here.
So Steve, here's a scenario. Obviously, we know everyone's trying to watch the Olympics today. So this race coming up here has person from our area participating in it. So what we're going to do here in a moment is we're going to drop our coverage for a second, and we'll rejoin you at the conclusion of this race so you can hear the race in full screen and full audio. And for more severe weather coverage, we'll be back on here in just a few minutes as well with continued severe weather coverage across our region. So for now, we're going to return you to regular programming and the Olympic coverage, and we'll be back on here after the completion of the race. see if we can pick out where it may have been. And kind of right on the western side of where the swamp is, and that road that you take to get from Suffolk into Gates County. So 244 Cypress Chapel Christian Church, pretty much right next couple minutes here. That's in the southern side of the city of Suffolk. Saunders 245, Nerney 247, and then Suffolk Executive Airport, if this holds together, around 250 is your estimated time of arrival for that thunderstorm that's capable of producing a tornado on the northern side here of Gates County, right between Folly Fork and Coral Peak. Meteorologist Steve Fendera with me today. Our summer weather intern Brendan also monitoring things behind the scenes. It's a all hands-on scenario here as we have these bands of Debbie making their way through the region. And you notice we kind of have some space in between these bands. So yes, once again, it's perfectly calm right now in Virginia Beach, Norfolk, and Chesapeake. But for our friends further west into Suffolk and Gates County, it's pouring down rain, and there's the possibility of these quick spin-up tornadoes that could come out of these bands of rain moving through. So I want to kind of reset and show you the three circulations we're watching. One is right here. That's the initial circulation. We came on the air for about an hour ago now. That circulation continues to have a tornado warning on it, but it's now a lot broader than what it was before. We'll go further off towards the south and east near the Nerney area. That is rotation number 2 that we were tracking heading through the Coral Peak area about 20 to 30 minutes ago. That will continue north and west, so areas further north and west of there towards Loomis, towards Kenyon, and north and west of Nerney, that's where that rotation is. And then further south and east of Coral Peak, that's rotation signature number 3 that we're keeping an eye on. Right on the western side here, the Dismal Swamp. Here's the Camden County line. Here's Gates County. Here's the city of Suffolk. The state line between Virginia and North Carolina is right through here. So this is moving northwest right towards Coral Peak and then eventually over the state line into the southern part of the city of Suffolk. No other warnings at this time in our region. We had one earlier for Southampton County and Sussex. That has expired. It's really this area that has been under the gun for about the past hour from these thunderstorms that continues to have the same areas of rotation move over them again and again and again.
And so, Ricky, it does sound like we've been talking about the same areas over and over again, because we have been, because there have been 3 areas of rotation you just talked about, 1, 2, and 3 lining up over top of each other, and that's typically the case when you have rain bands from a tropical system. It's not raining for everyone. It hasn't been raining at all for the south side, the peninsula's eastern shore, and for most of northeastern North Carolina, it's been okay with just a few passing downpours here. But the rain band that's set up in the way that they do, they're able to produce these little pockets of rotation. So you kind of have one after the other in some cases, and that's pretty much the same situation. And we've seen, it has seemed that the areas of rotation have really been kind of developing on that southwest corner of the Great Dismal Swamp, and then coming up the Great Dismal Swamp area, and then headed kind of right into the Suffolk area here. A little bit of some good news is that we could follow that same idea, thinking, okay, if there's a couple areas of rotation here, 1, 2, 3, what happens farther down to the south? Is there anything else farther that way? And if we look down that way, look at how ragged the area of rain is. Look at how ragged those thunderstorms are. Then where's our next rain band? That's off towards the west, closer to Ahoskie, farther southwest, and that doesn't look too organized. Looks very kind of ragged in nature, maybe a few pockets of heavy rain, a couple rumbles of thunder here or there. So it looks to be that this is our main focal point here. If we zoom in a little bit on rotation areas 1, 2, and 3, that is where we're going to focus on for the rest of the afternoon, because at least farther to the south, Ricky, it doesn't look too prominent like there's any additional thunderstorms, but they could still develop. We have a couple downpours near South Mills and Elizabeth City. All right, no lightning with them there, but if they're still connected to this main cluster here with the 3 areas of rotation, they could still probably produce a little bit of rotation here or there. So good news there is that this is a very isolated and focused point that we're focusing on. This is not widespread, but the bad news is that, well, there's 3 areas of rotation that we're watching, and the one that's kind of headed into Suffolk area right now is rather on the prominent side. Okay, you were about to pop up a correlation coefficient, Ricky. I saw you pop that up. Was there any sort of areas of debris or anything that would promote the idea that there's a tornado on the ground, or some tree branches or anything kind of flying around?
Nothing that jumps out at me right now. What we're watching for here when we talk about tornado debris signatures is something that looks like this. It's an area where there's a little bit of red and green together on the map. So if we can switch to max 3, that image is basically kind of what the idea here is. The radar beam bounces off of things in the air, and the radar is able to detect whether it's rain or snow, or whether it's not rain or snow. And when it looks like debris, it'll show up as a little area of green or a little area of blue on the map. Now, when we see these debris signatures, it's helpful in determining how strong the tornado may be, but the problem is it shows what already happened. It doesn't show what happens in the future. That's when we have to switch to our velocity products and try and figure out what's going on there. So that's what we'll do right now. We'll switch over to our velocity products and show you where these areas of rotation are, and we're going to switch to what's called storm relative velocity. And basically what this tells us is the way the winds are going. So red is going away from the radar like that, green is going towards the radar, and so what you end up with is a little area of circulation or rotation in that region that can spin up a tornado. So let's put a storm track on this once again and kind of give you an idea of where this storm may be heading. If you live in the southern part of the city of Chesapeake and you were kind of taking shelter for this last signature, last tornado circulation that was moving through your region, well, this next one's heading your way too. So Suffolk Executive 253. I think it will probably stay west of the downtown area. Let's zoom out here. Let me clear everything off the screen and let me get a better picture and loop it, and we'll kind of just look at this together. Yeah, I think this will probably end up staying west of, let's say, exactly downtown. But if you are familiar with that road that you take around the downtown area, this road right here, and kind of sometimes come down and then down this way to get into Gates County, that area needs to keep an eye on this system. You see the box flashing on the screen. That is kind of our heads up that the Weather Service has kind of trimmed back or queried this warning or kind of made it a little bit different in its size. And basically with this rotation signature that we're seeing right here, the Weather Service is just continuing the warning, indicating an area of possible rotation west of Suffolk, moving northwest at 30 miles per hour. So let's find it for you, and we'll put a storm track on that one as well. Now remember, this is rotation that is moving through Suffolk right now and will continue to make its way north and west into parts of Isle of Wight. So we're looking at Nansman, probably west of you as well, around 249, and then Kings Fork 250. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink our storm cone down a little bit in size so it doesn't get as many of these areas outside of where these storms are moving, and we'll draw a new storm track here for you. So let's draw it up this way at around 15-minute increments. Forest Glen Middle School 245, Lakeland High School 245, Kenyon 246, Myrtle 250, and Windsor at 255 for this possible tornado. Now that's signature. That's one of the signatures. We've kind of lost track which number we're on, Steve.
That's number 2, Ricky.
2.
Number 3. Let's go down to number 3. We'll use your max 3 if you don't mind just wiggling around there. I'm just going to get over here to Matt to point out some landmarks here. Again, these are, in a way, they're almost following the same path of each other here. So this area, the number 3 area rotation, is just north of the North Carolina-Virginia state line. It is in between Carolina Road and the pretty much western border of the Great Dismal Swamp here. So it's right at that western edge of the Great Dismal Swamp. And it is going to follow along Caroline Road, which is Route 32. It's going to go up 32, passing Cements Masonry LLC, passing, there's a catering service down there, Southside Virginia Catering Service, and then up towards about Legacy at Willow Pond. I wonder if that's a venue of sorts. And then if it does hold in that kind of north-northwest track, which is kind of going up 32, it does meet Route 13 around Suffolk Executive Airport. So it kind of can maybe take that path getting up to about the Suffolk Airport. Suffolk Skydive is up that way. And that, Ricky, that's kind of on the southwest fringes of downtown Suffolk as well. So back to your thought process of this maybe staying west of downtown Suffolk, I still like that idea. If it kind of follows that path that that areas of rotation 1 and 2 did, and yeah, you're putting it in motion right now, kind of supports that as well. Probably going to follow, again, that's Carolina Road, right up 32, and then it's going to meet, likely going to meet Route 13. So if you live near Carolina Road, and right now the area of rotation, number 3 that we're looking at is around the state line. Santa's Forest and Nursery is kind of where it is right now, where that meets some local roads, and that's our one we're going to focus on now, because I think that's at least what the rotation number 3, Ricky, does look a little more prominent. And look at that. The National Weather Service just trimmed that warning back a little bit. So it looks like they're going to...
they've removed Gates County, removed Camden County out of that
from the
warning.
back.
So
Yeah,
basically now the only warnings we have are in the city of Suffolk area and also the extreme kind of southern side here of Isle of Wight. That's where the 2 warnings are in effect. Let me pop on kind of just a general idea, and I'll show you the whole region here and kind of show you what we have going on. So in Virginia, here's your only warnings right now. Suffolk, parts of Isle of Wight, North Carolina, no warnings at this time. We just have those 2 that are in effect for parts of Suffolk and Isle of Wight. So getting more in depth here and kind of looking a little bit closer at where those are, it's going to be the area that is just kind of to the east of Whaleyville, north of Cora Peak, along 32, where 1 tornado signature is, and then to the western side here of the city of Suffolk towards Manning, Loomis, and Kenyon near Indian Trail Road. That's where the other area rotation is indicated on radar right now. So 2 areas of rotation that are worth watching as they continue to make their way north and west. Windsor, you're right on the edge of where this tornado warning polygon is, but this circulation is kind of drifting up your direction. So here's the circulation to the western side of the city of Suffolk. This one will be making its way north and west, so eventually heading towards Windsor. Here's where you come out of Kings Fork, out of Suffolk, heading towards Isle of Wight County, and this rotation will be going north and west from there into parts of Isle of Wight and the kind of the east, kind of the western side, northwest side there of the city of Suffolk. That's one rotation that we're keeping an eye on. The other rotation is further south, which does not look as strong as it did earlier. However, it still has a little bit of weak rotation here along 32, south and east of Nerney, kind of right on 32 is where I put that rotation right now. And as that continues to make its way north and west, Nerney's in the path of this, where 32 and 13 come together, you're in the path of this, and then eventually kind of the same areas we were talking about from this initial area of circulation, you're going to be having to watch this as well. Steve, both of these look weaker than they did earlier, but as we've kind of seen this afternoon, sometimes these systems can cycle and get a little bit stronger. The nice thing is
they kind of pulse. They pulse every now and then, and I think I'll help you finish your sentence here. The nice thing is that we don't have an area of rotation number 4.
Exactly, yeah.
We don't have number 4, which is way down to the south, is what you're looking at, which is near Elizabeth City and farther to the south. And that's because some of the rain is starting to break up on the satellite radar on that rain band itself. Farther to the south, there isn't much out there as well. On the big satellite radar over here, just to get a better idea of what is coming up next, I think for the rest of the region here, we can kind of use this as a time to just maybe do a little bit of a reset and just get the broader picture of where what's left of Debbie is. I mean, the center of rotation looks to be it's moving into North Carolina, way out towards Charlotte. If we could flip over to camera 1 here and Max 1, we're looking at the big satellite and radar. That being this far away helps us out in, I think, the forecast moving forward, is because we only have a few of these outer bands that we're going to be looking at, but all of these get wrapped back into the center of the system. So that's why there becomes an issue with a tornadic threat in tropical systems. Anytime a dying tropical system comes up our way here in Hampton Roads, it's typically in two ways. It either soaks us with rainfall for about an entire day, or two, creates a cloudy, windy day with like 4 thunderstorms, but 3 of those thunderstorms are producing tornadoes. So that's kind of the situation we're dealing with now, is that we don't have a lot of the rainfall, but we have the outer fringes of it. We have these outer bands, and because they are drifting northward and at the same time getting pulled back into the center of the system, they're able to quickly spin up potential of some damaging winds. So this bulk of this activity is going to lift more northward towards the Richmond area. We'll get a couple downpours, we'll get a couple strong thunderstorms for the south side, the peninsulas, and northeast North Carolina as we progress through the rest of our afternoon and evening here. And then we're going to have to wait towards the late night hours, because the center has to still pass us by to our west. And the center of the system is still going to pass by well to our west. It's kind of making more of a jog now, turning more northeasterly, and it's going to go up the mountains and probably race right up I-95. So this is kind of, in a way, going to jog and do a little turn back to the northeast. And then when that happens, which is later tonight, we could get a couple more of these stronger rain bands, which are farther to our southwest. So the ones that we're going to deal with for the rest of the afternoon are closer to home here. And those are the ones that we've been eyeing up closely here. Again, we've had 3 areas of rotation that we've been watching, areas 1, 2, and 3. And right now, Ricky, looking at velocity, it looks like number 4 isn't really coming to fruition all that much. So where those warnings are right now are in Suffolk as we speak, and that area rotation looks like it's lifting northwards of Whaleyville. So if we could take a peek over there, let's get the latest on those 2 warnings, if there's anything been updated from any word from the National Weather Service or not.
Yeah, nothing on any of those. We continue to have these warnings for about another 9 minutes now, and if they're not extended in time, we're going to return you to your regular programming here in the full screen over on the left side. But we want to make sure you are aware, if you're in parts of Gates County and parts of Camden, Hertford, Pasquotank, Perquimans, anywhere in northeast North Carolina, right now we're doing okay. No warnings in effect. If you're watching this from Virginia Beach, you're probably thinking that meteorologist is crazy. It hasn't done anything over the past hour. Well, that you are correct. It has not done anything in Chesapeake or Virginia Beach over the past hour. It's been west of you into Suffolk and Isle of Wight, where we've had to keep an eye on these storms making their way north and west, with the possibility of producing a couple quick spin-up tornadoes. So that is the concern here as we go over the next little bit, is once again, these storms could cycle. And so I want to show you where the rotation is now and where it would be moving over the next 15 to 20 minutes. I also want to keep in mind, as you're watching this, that if you're watching us on Hulu or YouTube TV or any of the streaming services, keep in mind they can sometimes be delayed. So right now, as I put a storm track on this, it is 2:52. By the time you hear me say that, it may not be 2:52 at your house if you look at your watch. So sometimes these streaming services can be delayed. I say that to just keep in mind when we give you these storm tracks and storm estimates that it may move at your location a little bit quicker than what's being shown right now is what we show as the storm track. So these storms continue to make their way kind of to the north and west. I want to redraw that storm track, because I think I drew that too far north. So let's draw this again, and I want to draw this kind of more northwest direction, because that really seems to be kind of where these storms are going as we loop the circulations. You can see where they've been moving. So Nerniesville 252, Manning 257, Lakeland High School 258, and the Kenyon area at 259. Speaking of that area, we have another circulation, if we can get the computer to behave here. Here we go. Another circulation that is north of Loomis right now and west of Kings Fork that is moving towards Windsor. This rotation is not as strong as it was earlier. However, still a little bit of rotation indicated on this. And as we go over the next 5 minutes or so, we're kind of going to see what the Weather Service decides to do and see if they decide to issue an additional tornado warning for this or if they let it expire. You can see north and west of Kenyon, a little area right here. See where there's a little darker color and then the brighter kind of green around it? That's the area of rotation that's being indicated here on the radar. So that's what we're watching for as it moves towards Windsor, for the possibility of a quick spin-up tornado. Tropical tornadoes, A lot of times they are weak. They don't show up as well on radar because their rotation signature is not as strong, and they're often rain wrapped. So they're hard to spot, they're hard to identify, and they're almost impossible to see if you try to go outside and see them because they're often wrapped in rain. Those rain-wrapped tornadoes, they can be more dangerous. All you see as it approaches is basically a big wall of rain, and you don't see any of the actual funnel or circulation as it moves towards your area. So that's why we say don't go outside and try to see these. Don't stand out on your porch. We also have a bunch of trees in our area too. So the chances of you seeing anything even outside of those 100-foot tall trees that may be around your yard is pretty low. So just stay in your safe spot. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's the lowest part of your house, away from windows. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Turn up that TV audio or watch our live stream if you have to get in a spot away from your TV. That way you can hear what we're saying as these tornado circulations continue to move through the area. That one to the south, thankfully, looks like it's pretty much gone to me, Steve. And the one near Windsor is still there a little bit, but not as strong as it was. So
we have a couple more minutes on that warning until 3 o'clock.
You know what happened? The circulation that was there in that southern box has now moved into the Nerney area, and it's outside that box. Yeah, so
yeah,
I was looking in the wrong spot.
Near Nerney, which is right around the airport. So that's rotation. I'm losing count here, but that's rotation number 3 that we've referenced. Number 1's long gone. Number 2 is kind of up towards the Windsor area near Myrtle, and that's headed potentially down into Windsor. So heads up there, as Ricky mentioned, get to your safe spot. And then number 3 is the one that is still along 32. These have been following Carolina Road, and the area rotation is likely going to stay west of downtown Suffolk, which is right up here on the top of the screen here on camera 1. And this is the area rotation that we've been referencing as number 3. That one likely that's right by the airport, which is right here, and going to likely track to the northeast, staying west of Suffolk. Still some strong wind associated with that. And notice, if you have been attentively watching us or listening to us over the past hour, 1, thank you. 2, you can notice that the areas of rotation that we're talking about, they're not as prominent. They don't look as contrasty, so to speak. We've been noticing big bright greens and dark bright reds, and we don't really see a big difference between the two. Maybe the one up towards Myrtle now, which is headed towards Windsor, Ricky, that looks like it could have a little bit more wind associated with it, which is associated with that tornado warning that goes up right up until the 3 o'clock hour here. So it's going to be interesting to see what the National Weather Service does with that warning to see if they extend it or not. Let's focus on number 2, which is rotation number 2, which is now just north of Myrtle. It's kind of around Old Myrtle Road. It's near Buckhorn Drive, and it is headed into 460. That's the corridor there. So if you're in downtown Windsor right now, Shiloh Drive, which is right here, make sure you get into your safe spot because this is in just a matter of minutes here. This is going to be moving right across Shiloh Road, right towards 460 in the Windsor area.
Steve, you're not going to like what I have to say, but let's go a little bit further south.
There we go.
Let's see what we can find down further south here in the South Mills area. I know it doesn't look like much there on base velocity.
Let's flip over to the other one. Yep, there we go.
It's not much, but I just want to point this out to you because if we go off the air at 3 o'clock when these warnings expire, I want you to keep in mind the Folly Fork area, Lynch's Corner, Greens Fork, Sunbury, pretty much the same areas we've been talking about.
They've been following the same path because they're part of the same rain band. Yeah.
That you should just remain weather aware because there may be an additional area rotation that tries to spin up on the southern side of this whole line as it continues to make its way northward. So nothing that kind of, well, I say that. Let's switch over to max 3, and what I'll point out on there is just a little area brighter rotation. And it just shows up a little bit better on here for some reason. But what I'm watching for is this area right here, right along the gates and kind of Perquimans
right near
and
Lynch's
County line. Yeah, right into here. Here's Camden County, here's Gates County, and then this is the area we're keeping an eye on, right into the Pasquotank and Perquimans County area. There could be additional circulations trying to spin up. So no warnings on this right now, but it's something we're going to keep a very close eye on over the next 5 to 10 minutes to see if the National Weather Service decides to issue an additional tornado warning for that region. But as of right now, we have this tornado warning remains in effect for another 2 minutes. I haven't seen any indication if they're going to continue that warning or not. The rotation to me looks a lot weaker than what it did before. Honestly, the rotation south of there looks a little better than the ones in the tornado warnings, but we'll see what
maybe just some strong wind right now for Windsor as that dying area of rotation kind of crosses 460 getting into downtown Windsor there. So maybe just some strong wind headed your way. Doesn't look to have too much rotation to it, so I wouldn't be surprised here if the National Weather Service kind of lets that warning expire. But then farther to the south, we notice more of the brighter greens. Now, a caveat to what you're thinking, Ricky, that also could be the farther you are away from
Here's the new warning, Steve.
There it is. Okay, well, there we go. All right.
This is going to be for the system that was further north and west for there. So not this area rotation, but the one that is near Windsor right now. That warning goes for a little bit longer this afternoon, I believe, till 3, where's the time here?
3:30. It's going to another half hour here. And notice the direction of the polygon too. If we can
I'll zoom
up on Max. You're okay. It is. Notice how it's following the path of the rain band. We've been talking about them moving northwestward and bending backwards towards the area of rotation. That's essentially what's happening there when you see the polygon kind of shifted in a way. And the National Weather Service, I guess, just following along this. I'm wondering if they're seeing it flare up a little bit more right all over Windsor right now when you're getting the wind pick up. And it could be following, is that Route 460?
Yep, 460 near east of Zuni.
Could be just following Route 460. So if you do live on 460 here around the Windsor area, Zuni, Ivor, stay in that safe spot or get into that safe spot if your phone is now being alerted, is now alerting you, or whichever way you get weather alerts, whether that's us rambling on here on television. This area of rotation, Ricky, is probably going to follow 460. The polygon shows that as it's shifting more northwestward, moving about 40, 45 miles an hour or so. So got a lot of wind right now in Windsor. It's probably loud. The rain is very heavy. Not that much lightning, but that doesn't mean it's not a strong thunderstorm. So just keep that in mind. Near Morning Star Church, that's about in a couple minutes here, and then towards Shiloh Church, about 3:05. So that's off towards 460, kind of between right through Isle of Wight, between Surrey and Sussex as well. We're still in Isle of Wight. I'm losing my
Isle of Wight,
here. Still
northern part of
Yep.
Southampton County and the extreme kind of northwestern part of the city of Suffolk. So really this is more Isle of Wight than anything right now for where this rotation signature is. Right near Windsor, into the Windsor area. So that's a pretty, popular area that people travel through or perhaps been through in our region, Isle of Wight. Windsor High School, Twins Fork Mobile Home Park. There's a Dairy Queen and a Checkers there west of town. That's pretty much where this circulation is right now, is just almost right into the downtown Windsor area. Remember, radar is an instant in time. So what we're showing you here is actually about a minute or two behind, and as a new scan comes in, you can see pretty much right over downtown right now. What I was going to say, it's about a minute or two behind, so in reality, it was probably more over downtown Windsor, and that's where the latest radar scan came in at. So keep that in mind as you kind of watch everything here with us, is as these circulations move over time. And as we look at the rotational signature, there's nothing jumping out as an immediate signature to me. And the other thing to keep in mind, Steve, is we are pretty close to the radar site. You could see it there as it moved into Windsor. Now it's still a little bit more elongated, but it's not as strong as what it was. So what I'd like to do is kind of reset that. I want to go further south and just make sure we're keeping an eye on all the other possible circulations, including this one that does not have any warning on it, but I think just we should keep an eye on it here. North and west of Lynch's Corner near Acorn Hill, Folly Fork and Core Peak. This is pretty much over the Dismal Swamp area right now, but it is in an area that we've been tracking storms all afternoon, and as we continue to kind of track these storms, we should keep an eye. No tornado warning, as you see. That's why there's nothing on the screen there for a second. But it's this area that there's a little bit of velocity, a little bit of a signature there for a possible tornado that we should keep an eye on over time, and we'll see if any additional warnings are issued with that. But the official warning in our region is for that area. I think we can give Suffolk an all clear, but it's really for Isle of Wight and the extreme northern part there of Southampton County where this warning is in effect. I want to zoom out and reset everything here for you because we just passed the 3 o'clock hour. It's 3:03, and you're watching Olympic coverage and severe weather coverage here on WAVY News 10. What we are tracking is an area of possible tornado rotation north and west of Suffolk into the Isle of Wight area near Windsor. Elsewhere, there's nothing going on across anywhere else in the south side. Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Norfolk, Portsmouth, you're fine. Hampton, Pocosin, you're fine. Newport News, you're going to have some rain move in the next little bit, but you're fine. I do want to show you further south here near the Albemarle because we haven't had any storms across the eastern part of northeast North Carolina into Currituck and Camden County, but we've had a couple thunderstorms now develop here across the Albemarle Sound, and those could eventually drift northward, and just like these storms, they could have a potential to produce an isolated tornado. So if you live in Chesapeake, and you live in Virginia Beach, and you've been saying nothing's going on, well, stay tuned, because we could have this storm here try to drift its way north into parts of Currituck County, into Camden County, Chesapeake, and perhaps even Virginia Beach as time goes on, as everything's kind of just rotating, as you can see on the screen, this way. So that would kind of be the storm track for that one, that would kind of be the storm track for that one, and so on and so forth. So we still have a long way to go here, and that tornado watch goes until 8 p.m. tonight for pretty much everywhere in our region. And that tornado watch is basically your heads up that something is going on. Remember, watches mean that something could happen. It's kind of an advance notice of the possibility of a warning being issued. Meanwhile, tornado warnings are when a tornado has been spotted on radar, or someone has indicated that they saw a tornado, and that's kind of the time you want to take action. So the one tornado warning we have in effect right now is for Isle of Wight, Southampton, and Suffolk, but I think we can clear Suffolk out of it. And the reason I say that is because if we switch the velocity product, you can see that any of that rotation is near the Windsor area right now. It's pretty much outside of Suffolk. It's not near Kings Fork anymore. It's past that. So really into more of Isle of Wight, Steve, is where that possible tornado circulation would be.
And on the radar picture here, this does look like it's becoming a bit more of a bigger or ragged thunderstorm in itself. I mean, all of them are ragged in a way here when you're dealing with a tropical system, but it really is a broad area of rotation. And when we're looking at the velocity scan that Ricky's pointing at now, if we flip over to camera 1, I'll just show you the areas of rotation right around Windsor. This is probably going right over 460. So if you do live near the 460 area, north of Windsor towards Ivor, even out towards the Wakefield area as well, either side of 460 in the Isle of Wight area or in far northern parts of Southampton County here, just stay weather aware and get inside and get away from the windows. You don't want to be outside at all. You don't want to be close to being outside. You want to be as far away from the outside as you can. And what do we mean by the centermost portion of your home? The hallway or the stairwell or a bathroom or a closet that is away from the windows, because these areas of rotation, these thunderstorms that are capable of producing damaging wind, not just damaging wind, but damaging wind damages things, and those things could get picked up and thrown around. So it could be flying debris, tree branch here or there, fence coming down, whatever it may be. We just want you to stay safe. So this is what we mean when we say the safe spot. It's the centermost area of your home and on the lowest level, down to the first floor. If you've got a basement, you're fortunate enough to get to the basement, get to the basement, or either way, just away from the windows, whether that's a closet or a hallway, in the centermost spot of your home. Also, if you're, I'm not going to say go outside right now, but throughout the day, we're talking about severe weather coverage. We're talking about thunderstorms as well. If it's raining at your house, but you're not under a warning, or you see a really cool cloud, or whatever it may be, there are no windows here in our studio. So take your picture of what's going on outside and go to wavy.com/report it. And you could send us your photos of the weather in your neighborhood. And it just really helps us verify what's going on outside to help us get a better picture of what the forecast is going to be, what the weather is going on outside. Okay, so let's just take a look at the big picture here with the satellite and radar. This is Debbie. We're talking about Debbie. We've been talking about Debbie from the weekend all the way through Monday. Since Monday, we're talking about it all week long. We're going to be talking about it for the next couple of days here. The center of the system is way down towards North Carolina, out towards Charlotte here. Broad in nature, but it's making its turn northward. It made that jog inland, which is why we're still dealing with this thing, and it's now moving northward. It's going to pick up a lot of speed here. That's the forecast moving forward. So that kind of helps us out to improve our weekend forecast, but it's still got to move northward. So we're dealing with kind of the dirty side of the storm is what we call it. The front right quadrant of tropical systems tends to be where the stormiest of the weather is. Sometimes it's where the worst of the storm surge is. Oftentimes in our neck of the woods, it's where the worst of the severe weather is. And that's kind of what we're dealing with, because you have these bands of rain. Let's count them. 1, 2, this is a broad one, 3, 4, all spiraling out and then spiraling into the area of rotation. So these are just going to get thrown up our way throughout the rest of the afternoon. So it's not raining across the peninsula's eastern shore. It's not raining across the south side, or at least most of the south side. Elizabeth City and northeast North Carolina got a couple showers around. We have to wait for this thing to kind of slide up through the region here to bring us a chance of some thunderstorms as we go through the rest of the evening here. So we have more on the way. We're not done just yet, but the worst that we've had to deal with over the past hour and a half has been out of one of those rain bands. And in between those rain bands, the sun may even pop out. It's not raining, and you've got some dry time in between. That second rain band, which is closer to Emporia to the southwest, isn't too prominent. A couple flashes of lightning here or there, but it doesn't look too strong. So that's telling me a good thing here or there. The focal point, though, is what we've been talking about, is that tornado warning, which goes till 3:30. This is off towards Isle of Wight right now, that area of rotation that Ricky and I have been watching closely. Brendan, Weather in Turn 2, hanging out with us, has been watching closely. Is now, I think it's north of the Windsor area here. I don't see like a couplet in a way. Ricky, it's getting really close to the radar, so it's kind of getting hard to interpret, so to speak. But I like the idea that this is moving along the I-95 corridor there. And it looks like we just got another tornado warning,
That's gonna be
that's number 4. That's area rotation number 4 we were talking about, huh?
That was the southern area, Steve, we're keeping an eye on.
Yep, there we go. I'm going
to hand things over to you because I'm coordinating behind the scenes with some of our
Absolutely.
staff, so hang on one second.
Absolutely. All right, so the new warning that has just been issued is for Camden and Gates counties. This was that area of rotation which has been developing where they all have been developing. This is the 4th one we've been watching out of this one rain band. It's now the corner, pretty much the southwest corner of the Great Dismal Swamp, right around Coral Peak. We've been talking about that for quite some time here. So around the Coral Peak area, it's probably going to follow right up 32 or around Caroline Road and then head northwestward here. This warning goes to about 3:45. Okay, so this is going to take us for another about 35 minutes or so, and we're going to watch this closely. This one, I will say, the other 3 areas of rotation that we had have stayed west of Suffolk, have stayed west of downtown Suffolk, that is, downtown Suffolk. This one, though, because it's swinging up with a rain band, is farther to the east. So I would really pay attention to this one if you live in downtown Suffolk here, as the area rotation likely going to follow along the western fringe of the Great Dismal Swamp here. So let's put a storm tracker on this. This is moving northwestward here. They've all been moving at about 40 to 45 miles an hour, so it hasn't been too much of a change here. So it's still about, I want to say probably now about 5 miles northeast of Sunbury, and it's moving north-northwest, again, about 40 miles an hour. So moving pretty quick here. And we put a storm tracker on that to the northwest. It could get close to Suffolk, Russell, Nerney, so we want you to watch this one closely. I know that's a far way away from Suffolk and Elephant Fork and Kings Fork here. But in the next 20 to 30 minutes, your weather is really going to start to deteriorate in Suffolk. It's already raining on you right now, but we have some strong wind associated with this system farther down to the south again. So this is area rotation number 4. We've been talking about them 1, 2, 3, and 4 because we've had multiple ones to deal with here. So I'm going to zoom in to where exactly the area of rotation is that we're looking at, and notice this is what we call velocity map here. So this just measures the wind speed and direction of the raindrops that are flying around, and our radar picks it up and it says, okay, it's going this way, it's going that way. So when we have a contrast between the 2 colors here, that's our area of rotation that we look at, which is potentially producing a tornado. It is just to the east here of Coral Peak. So it's between the edge of the Great Dismal Swamp, where all the big trees are, and Route 32 here, which is Caroline Road. It's moving right around the state line of Virginia and North Carolina, and I'm not going to be surprised if it follows along the edge of the Great Dismal Swamp. The problem that poses is that paints a line that goes close to downtown Suffolk. So you're in the crosshairs of this shortly here. This is probably going to move up towards the Carolina Road area, up towards White Marsh Road. I'm reading some roads here on my map, towards Saunders, towards Skeetertown, towards Nerney, maybe towards Franklin Junction here. But this is moving northwest about 45 miles an hour or so. It looks a little, I don't want to say it's broad, but area rotation most certainly there as we look at the edge of the Great Dismal Swamp. So that's kind of the line, so to speak, that this is going to be referencing. And I'm going to lower the transparency on this so you can see what I'm talking about here. So I'm bringing this down, and here's the line, here's the edge of the Great Dismal Swamp, right about here in our satellite and radar picture. So this is going to follow pretty much along that edge. So if you live near the Route 32, which is Carolina Road, all right, which goes right up towards Nerney to where the airport is in Suffolk. Get to your safe space and get to your spot that's in your home that's away from the windows here. So it's about 3:15 here, 3:15 p.m. We've got the Olympics on the left side of your screen. We've got our tornado coverage here, and honestly, our coverage of this quite pesky tropical system of Debbie, which is way out here, farther way out here towards the west. And we're watching closely these rain bands come onshore, or just get, I should say, get wrapped up in this system here. They get flown up, and they are easily producing quick spin-up tornadoes. And that's the thing with these rain bands, is that they're moving real quick, and they kind of pulse in a way, and they could quickly just have a little bit of rotation to them, and that is what's able to produce some damaging wind. Now, we do have a lot of lightning with this, seeing some lightning flashes to the south here of Suffolk. So we have this one warning which goes till 3:30, which is north of Suffolk, and it's out towards Route 460 in Isle of Wight, north of Windsor as well. Not too concerned with that. Sure, a couple flashes of lightning, but you're still in the crosshairs of rotation number 4, which is farther down to the south. And this is the one right now, which, see, there's a couple flashes of lightning. And lightning in these situations is a sign, for a thunderstorm, is a sign of intensification. So that tells us, okay, this thing may be staying a little strong. And that makes sense because it's along the edge of the Great Dismal Swamp. There's not much out there. There's a lot it could use to fuel up. So I'm going to get back to where the rotation is, because I want to get a better idea of where this is going to keep you guys a little bit more prepared as we get through the next 15 minutes or so. So on that western fringe of the Great Dismal Swamp, between that and Carolina Road, we've got, we've got pretty much the path that this thing is going to take. It's going to cross up towards Washington Ditch Trail, kind of the trail that you can enter into the Great Dismal Swamp, which is right around Skeetertown. That's the next place that this is going to move right into. So that Skeetertown, keep an eye to the sky here. Make sure you get into your safe spot. White Marsh Road is an area right now I believe the rotation is over top of, and that is making a line and making a path towards the airport, which is right around Suffolk or Russell here. So let's put a storm tracker on this again, see if we can get some better areas of some timestamps of arrivals here. So Saunders, 3:18, 3:20 for Nerney and Nerneysville around 3:22, the airport around 3:22 as well, and then could be close to Suffolk here. And I say that just because every area of rotation that we have been watching, there's been 4 of them if you've been with us for the past 2 hours, every one that has been developed has been a little bit farther east. So this likely going to take that path on the eastern side of that Warney polygon and maybe make it into downtown Suffolk here. So make sure you got your safe spot. You know where you're going inside of your home. That's the centermost area of your home, away from the windows here. Franklin Junction in about 5 minutes or so. Suffolk in about 10 minutes, all right? So 3:25 if you're living downtown Suffolk or around downtown Suffolk. 58 comes into town. Make sure you get to your safe spot here. Just get away from the windows. The area of rotation where the biggest of the wind is still farther south of town, and it's south of the airport. But a reminder, these are moving very fast, 40, 45 miles an hour to the northwest. So it's going to get to you pretty quickly here. So that puts you into Suffolk in about 10 minutes or so, or around the airport in about 8 to 10 minutes. So we have to keep that in mind as we watch these things very, very closely. So this is our 4th area of rotation, and I hope to think, and I like to think, that this is probably the last area of rotation that we're going to be talking about for a bit. We still have a thunderstorm threat and a tornado threat for a while here. The tornado watch goes out for the entire area until 8 o'clock in the evening here, but there's nothing too prominent that's south of these rain bands that maybe could promote another area of rotation or maybe another tornado warning or anything like that. If you've been with us, we've been talking about kind of 1, 2, 3, 4 in a line, in a way. They've been forming on top of each other or kind of right behind each other, and in a way taking the same path but just developing a little bit further to the east. And in doing so, that's given me the idea that this is headed towards the downtown Suffolk area as well. So let's get right back into where the radar is. We've got 2 warnings on your map right now. The one on the top of your screen, which is for Isle of Wight, this goes until 3:30 here. And the spots that we were watching closely with this aren't too prominent anymore. This bottom one, which is number 4, area of rotation number 4, that warning is until 3:45. So we do have another half hour with it, with a very fast-moving thunderstorm. Fast-moving thunderstorm, no dice. Either if it's rotating or not, that's not good because that's capable of producing damaging wind. But because this is tropical and this is associated with a tropical system, we have the chance of a tornado with this thunderstorm. Right now, it looks like it's near the airport, near Nerney, near Russell is that area of rotation we're watching closely. I'll draw a little line on it here, right to the east of Nerney. That's the zone I've been watching closely. Could be another one flaring up behind it as well. Yeah. Just a little bit behind it, and that's over the Great Dismal Swamp. So that wouldn't surprise me if, you know, there's a little area of rotation or maybe a quick little spin up to the southern fringes of it. So if we just do a broad storm track on that, Ricky, both of those little zones, little zones, these are very small, but they're still very powerful and strong. It looks like they'll be drawing a line right towards downtown Suffolk. So that's following Carolina Road up towards the Nerney area, passing the airport now. So that's that one zone we'll watch, and that second one's probably going to follow that eastern fringe of the polygon there. The National Weather Service is extending this, not extending this, they're continuing the warning until 3:45. So we'll watch these two zones closely here. All right, and that's probably making a beeline right to downtown Suffolk as well. So that's the zone we're going to watch closely here. Make sure you're getting to your safe space, so you're getting away from the windows, because these things could pick up some or cause some debris and produce some damage. Speaking of debris, Ricky, have you seen anything on the CC or anything that has been?
Nothing that's jumped out to me there. It almost kind of looks like there's
prominent.
Two little areas of rotation. What I want to do here, as you've been doing a great job of kind of showing where everything is, I want to give a wider picture recap and tell everyone where we're at. So it is 3:19 here in the afternoon on this Thursday. We're tracking 2 tornado signatures with tornado warnings on them. It is not raining in Norfolk, not raining in Virginia Beach, not raining in Chesapeake, but we could have some thunderstorms make their way further south and east here over the next little bit. So as we watch those storms kind of track their way off towards the south and east, what I'm going to watch for is for these areas right through here to possibly have some areas of rotation spin up. And if that were to happen, this could impact the southern part of the city of Chesapeake, or this storm here that's near Elizabeth City could impact the western side of the city of Chesapeake and into parts of Camden County. It's also 3:20 here in the afternoon. I know many of you are tuning in to watch the Olympics. If you're tuning in to watch our local Olympian, Grant Holloway, coming up here in about 15 or 25 minutes when his race kicks off, we're going to go full screen for that. You won't miss it. We'll give you that in its entirety. But what we want to do is make sure you're aware, as severe thunderstorms and possibly life-threatening weather moves through our area, what is going on. So we have 2 tornado warnings in effect, one for Isle of Wight in the northern side here of the city, Southampton County, and then the city of Suffolk, another tornado warning in effect. These have basically been like train tracks. We've had warning after warning after warning after warning in the same exact area. And that's what continues to happen here as we go through the 3 o'clock hour. We take a loop of everything, and you notice there are 2 other areas of thunderstorms across parts of northeast North Carolina. The thing that kind of jumps out to me is that these are moving a little bit more northerly than northwesterly. So we're going to keep an eye on these. And once again, the city of Chesapeake, heads up, nothing in your area right now, but over the next 30 minutes to an hour, we could have some thunderstorms make their way into your region with the possibility of producing some isolated tornadoes. We look at the velocity signatures, and there's nothing that jumps out at me as being an immediate threat in that region. Maybe something here kind of on the northwest side of Pasquotank County that we got to keep an eye on between South Mills and Sunbury near Lynch's Corner. But I think right now the biggest circulation and the more prominent circulations are here in the city of Suffolk, which I don't know what's going on in Suffolk. It seems like we always end up with tornado warnings in Suffolk whenever we have severe weather. But here's the area of rotation just to south and east of Russell. As Steve was pointing out, these are moving kind of to the north and west. So on that track, it'll take it very close to downtown Suffolk in just the next 5 to 10 minutes. So downtown Suffolk, mainly the western side, but perhaps getting into the heart of downtown with this second circulation that's down here, we're talking just about 5 to 10 minutes, around 3:26 for the city of Suffolk. The Constance Wharf Marina, 3:27, Elephants Fork, 3:28. The hospital on the northern side, Centura Obacy Hospital, 3:30 is when that circulation will be getting close to your area. Elsewhere, I do want to go further north and west to that rotation that was up into Isle of Wight County. I just don't see anything that jumps out as a big problem to me right now in that warning. There maybe some gustier winds there, but I think the more prominent circulations are definitely further south and east into Suffolk right now that we got to keep an eye on. So those are the two main areas of concern at this hour. We are continuing, though, to keep an eye on every storm in the region because that tornado watch goes until 8 p.m. tonight. To give you a little bit of a reminder as to what the difference between a watch and a warning, tornado watches are issued when conditions are favorable for severe weather to form. Tornado warnings mean that something is occurring or is going to occur very soon. It's when radar has indicated a possible tornado, or spotters or law enforcement or the public reports a tornado, and it's kind of your heads up, you need to take action now. In most homes, that'll be the centermost part of your house, away from windows, stairways, bathrooms, closets are typically good spots. I say bathrooms sometimes, even though it's maybe on the exterior walls, because the porcelain tubs can provide some protection from any type of flying debris. Additionally, you can cover yourself with blankets or pillows or a helmet for extra protection if you get into any of those places where these tornado warnings are in effect. So, looping everything for you here and showing you what's going on. I also want to turn the lightning and see if we can detect any. A little bit near South Mills, but not a lot showing up here over the past, let's say, 20 minutes or so. But that sometimes is an indication of how strong a storm is. So if we see an uptick in lightning, it kind of gives us a word of caution. It's like, uh-oh, that storm could be strengthening a little bit. So as we look at these storms, you notice another thing that's jumping out at me is that some of these are starting to isolate themselves, and they're not in as much of a line as they were before. So this one near Suffolk, we got to keep a close eye on because it's kind of trying to isolate itself away from all the other areas of rain. And my concern with that is that if it can do so, it gets basically a free area of storm ingredients flowing into it. So this southernmost circulation here to the southeast of downtown Suffolk, that's the one we got to keep an eye on because it has nothing else around it. It's basically just feeding off of everything around the storm, and it's not being impeded by any other area of thunderstorm activity. So as that goes on, we got to keep a close eye as this moves into Suffolk. So I want to make sure we give you an updated storm track. And I also want to keep in mind, or tell you to keep in mind as we kind of watch these storms move through, that if you're watching us on YouTube TV or Hulu or some of the streaming services that are out there, sometimes those can be delayed 30 to 90 seconds. So it is 3:25 right now as I speak. You may not hear that for another 30 seconds or so, just because of the streaming delay that's on those online services. So keep that in mind. If you lose power during this event, also keep in mind you can watch our coverage online. And if you have family or friends who are up in the path of this storm that I just drew the cone on, let's draw that back again, give them a heads up, send them a text message or give them a phone call and say, hey, you've got a storm coming your way. If you live in downtown Suffolk or around there, 3:30, so about 4 minutes is when this will be moving in the downtown Suffolk area, Elephant Fork 3:33, and Chuckatuck around 3:42 this afternoon is for that possible tornado moving in to parts of the city of Suffolk. Looking at the rotation signature, it's definitely still there. It's kind of right on the edge of where the Great Dismal Swamp is and kind of riding along the Great Dismal Swamp. So this is going to move pretty much right in through a lot of that tree area that is the western side of the Great Dismal Swamp. You can see this kind of greenish shading right there. That's pretty much right where the boundary of the swamp is. So you get out of that, it gets into a little bit more urban or industrialized areas, but right through here is where the swamp is, and here's where the rotation signature is, almost right over where the polygon line is for that tornado warning. So this is moving north and west towards Suffolk as we speak. So once again, heads up in the city of Suffolk, possible tornado heading your direction here that could spin up rather quickly as we go over time. Steve, one
Ricky,
thing that...
I was just going to mention, basing off of, it's going right over White Marsh Road, which is the road that you would drive if you live in downtown Suffolk. You want to get into the Great Dismal Swamp to go for a hike or something like that. You'd go down White Marsh Road, and then you'd kind of peel off into the swamp there to go for a hike there. So this is following White Marsh Road north, and is going to head right through Stratford Terrace, and then that's right on the fringes of downtown Suffolk, and then we're into the neighborhoods, and then we're into Suffolk as well. So like you've been mentioning, in a matter of minutes, this is moving right along White Marsh Road, pretty much between that and the airport, basically, is where that area of rotation is, or between White Marsh Road and 604, which is Factory Street. Factory Street and White Marsh Road, those are the two that run north and south. Out of town or south of town, this storm is moving right up the two of those roads that head right into town here. And the area of rotation that you were referencing, Ricky, still is pretty prominent over that western fringes of the Great Dismal Swamp, headed into Suffolk now. So this is the time, again, to get away from the windows. We got to emphasize that enough. This is kind of separate. It is separating itself. If we flip over to we are on the Max 1 computer here. This is that area rotation right now. And see how it's peeled off of the rest of the thunderstorm activity, which this has been tied to. That's what Ricky was alluding to when it's separating itself and it's creating its own little environment here. Is this going to take a jog more so to the east here on that eastern fringe of the polygon? That's something we'll watch for closely here. Is it likely strengthening? If you're looking at the velocity map right now, it kind of does look like rotations holding together here. So Suffolk, in a matter of just a couple minutes here, please get to that safe spot away from the windows in the centermost portion of your home and the lowest level of your home, because we could be talking about some damaging wind gusts headed your way into town here. So this is what we mean when we say get away from the windows, get into, whether it's a hallway or the bottom portion of a stairwell or a closet that is away from the windows, because these systems, these little thunderstorms, while they're small in nature, they can quickly spin up some damaging wind and throw some things around outside and cause some damage. Now, the rain bands themselves are starting to break up a little bit. That's good and bad. Good because, well, there's not much left on radar, but two, bad because when they separate themselves, like the one near Suffolk is doing right now, they maybe can produce some stronger rotation. So that's the idea we're thinking for the severe thunderstorm warning, or excuse me, the tornado warning, which is over top of Suffolk right now, and that goes until the 3:45 time frame. So to do a quick little reset here, it is about 3:30 p.m. here on this Thursday. We're keeping an eye on these thunderstorms moving into town. We've got 2 tornado warnings. The one to the northwest of Suffolk is going to expire here soon in a matter of minutes, and then the one over top of downtown Suffolk goes until 3:45 here. So there it is. We got one warning now, one tornado warning that we're dealing with for the next 15 minutes, and the area that is capable of producing damaging wind is right over top of Suffolk right now. So we have to get to our safe spots. We have to get away from the windows and ride this out as it moves through town here. So that area rotation looks to be into downtown Suffolk or just south of downtown Suffolk. Right here, the contrast between the reds and the greens here, that is moving into town here across Suffolk. So let's get away from the windows here. Let's get to our safe spot. Now, there's another couple areas we're watching closely here to the south, and as they tend to break away from the main rain band, they don't look that strong, but there are a couple of areas of lightning near South Mills, and what we'll watch closely for are little pockets and little zones here on our velocity map, little notches. There's one, there's two, maybe there's one over there. So we're going to watch those closely as they drift into the south side. We'll keep you guys posted. We're going to get you back to the Olympics now. Is there a race we're trying to watch here at 3:30?
Well, meteorologist Jeff Edmonds is joining us now for our severe weather coverage. We got about 15 minutes or so until the big race with Grant Holloway here in our region. But Jeff and I have been kind of keeping an eye on this Suffolk storm, Steve. And I want to allow Jeff to kind of pinpoint some areas here just on the eastern side of the city of Suffolk into the areas that may be under the gun for this tornado near Stratford Terrace, Wilson Pines, and West Jericho over the next little bit. So I'll run the radar here for you, Jeff, and you can point out some locations.
Yeah, thank you. And Ricky, I'm going to have you read these off because I can't read them from the distance, because I'm seeing the same thing that you're seeing right now. There's 2 boxes. There's people running on one side of the screen and I'm there, so it's hard for me to read that from the distance. But let me just face this way. It's a little bit easier. So there's Jericho Ditch Road, lane, right there. This is the area of rotation. And remember, that's the spot where there may be that tornado moving right into the heart of downtown Suffolk. You're in Suffolk right now. You got to be downstairs. You have to be in a room without windows, or at least far enough away from those windows. If you have an open floor plan concept in your house, probably the hallway or something like that is where you want to go. This is the area of rotation. We've been seeing several storms move through with tornado warnings as we've gone throughout the night. Ricky, if you could mention some of those road names. I'm having difficulty reading them from my distance. But
I understand. It's kind of a small screen here. So East Washington Street is this road that comes from basically Magnolia into the city of Suffolk. So south of there, you're looking at Lake Kennedy Drive. We have some other roads on here, including East Suffolk Middle School area, Freeney Avenue, Clary's Drive, Booker T. Washington Elementary School, Blithwith Lane, Freeney Avenue, Pinner Street, Moore Avenue. This is kind of the eastern side of the city of Suffolk is where this strongest rotation is. But even if you're in downtown Suffolk, if you're in the riverfront area where that hotel is there, JFL Middle School, you need to be taking shelter from this storm. If you're familiar with where the Walmart is, north of the city of Suffolk, this is going to go probably just to the east of there, but I wouldn't count on 100% because this storm is kind of moving more north than northwest, but sometimes they can make a little bit of a jog. So these are the areas we got to keep a close eye on over the next little bit for that possible tornado. So as we zoom out, you can see we have the rotation signature right here on the southern side of Suffolk, or the southeastern side of Suffolk, near Washington Street, east of downtown, moving kind of to the northeast. So Elephant Fork is up here. Here's where downtown is. Here's where the riverfront is. Nansemond River goes right through here. There's a Walmart, there's a couple fast food places, and more as you get north of town. But this is kind of on the eastern side. So here's 460 as you're coming from where the Hampton Roads Executive Airport is and making your way westward. Here's where you split off and go take that road around the city of Suffolk. And here's where the circulation is. Just the eastern side of Suffolk, moving north, eventually going to cross Washington Street and cross 460. There's definitely still a rotation signature there. I'm going to switch to correlation coefficient.
And one thing to mention too, this storm is moving quickly. It's moving at 35 miles an hour to the northwest. So this is faster than you can drive through town with assuming that you have maybe all the stoplights. But this is a fast moving storm. So this is why you want to be in that safe room. Are you seeing anything on as you look at correlation coefficient or any type of
nothing
debris?
That I can say distinctly.
I've not seen anything that distinctly. I've been looking at some scans past. I didn't see anything that popped out too much, but we certainly see that rotation in that area, and we see that right over downtown Suffolk right now. You can see the kind of path of where that rotation has been most prominent on the radar map here. Again, we're watching this area right here. See where this red meets the green? That's the area that we're watching. And on the other side of the screen right now, and I know you saw it too, you saw Grant Holloway getting ready to go. We'll bring that to you. So we're paying attention to that feed as well. But this area of rotation right here, that's the spot that we're tracking. These are the areas that it's moving north into. So that brings it towards Red Top at 337. Right now it's 335. Oakland and towards Oakland Elementary School here in about the next 9 minutes. That's on the northern side of this, but there's a lot of businesses and establishments on that path as the storm moves right over those areas north of Suffolk that aren't coming up. We're just picking out the towns on here, like Chuckatuck, for example, like Longview, also Muddy Cross is where we have these time to arrival. That's longer term, but that's outside of the warned area. Immediately in the warned area, a lot of homes, businesses, where we have this spot of rotation. See how bright the green is and how dark red to bright red that red is there? And we just got a new scan right there. That's the area that we're watching. That's the part of the storm where there's broad rotation, and then inside of that, there could be a smaller area that includes the tornado. That's close to Wilroy Road right now. Right over that area, close to Elephant Fork too. Ricky, if you could move backwards and pull your table just a little bit, physically backwards, thank you.
Stand in front of your monitor.
Yeah, a little bit in front of the monitor. I was kind of looking around you. So that's the area right here that we're seeing that's moving to the north. Again, 35 miles an hour. If you are in this area of Suffolk, or if you're in this area too, I would still seek shelter, still assume that the tornado could be maybe a little bit outside of that spot of rotation, or maybe it's kind of arcing down at an angle a bit. So that's where we have to be careful for. Here's some more times to arrival as the storm continues to move to the north and northwest at around 35 miles an hour. I'll look at, we'll not list all of them here, but just pick the spot that you're most familiar with or closest to you. And that's where this storm is going to be affecting here very soon. Outside of this, where we can see where we just put the list in front of, Portsmouth, into Virginia Beach, Norfolk, also most of the peninsula, we're quiet right now. We're not seeing any storms yet into the area, maybe later tonight, but for right now, it's all about areas into downtown Suffolk where we have a very apparent signature of rotation. That's again where there's the most likely chance for a tornado. That's why we have that tornado warning that's been issued by the National Weather Service. Storm moving to the north, right through downtown Suffolk. Ricky?
I think they're going to, if they're going to extend this warning, they're going to have to extend it outside of where the warning box is. Now, I will say it's right on the edge. So Wilroy Road, Elephant Fork, almost right near the hospital. Centera Obici Hospital is north of there. Lake Mead Park, this is just to the east of you. Hill Point Elementary School, you're in the path of this over the next really 5 to 10 minutes. That is where this possible rotation is. And if it were to stay together, Chuckatuck and Oakland Elementary School are two areas, including King Fork High School in that as well. Kings Fork and Nansemond River, you're kind of on the western side, but Kings Fork High School is very close to this in terms of where the rotation would be. But right now, where I'm kind of pinning the rotation is south of the hospital, south of 58, so kind of in this area right here near Elephant Fork, right where your hand is.
Yep.
That's where I would put the highest level of rotation. The hospital is just north of there, and if you're familiar with the areas that were impacted in 2008 by that tornado that went through there, this is not taking the same path. However, some of the general areas on the north side of the city, this is kind of where that rotation is. So anywhere near Red Top, there's a lot of businesses in that region.
Yeah,
near
so
the
that
hospital.
stretch right there, a lot of restaurants, businesses,
The
yes.
YMCA is there. We have Now Care Suffolk. There's a couple dental places. Nansemond Pediatrics is over there. There's a Goodwill along Godwin Boulevard. Hill Point Boulevard is in there. The Hill Point Woods apartments are in that region. There's also a Hill Point Preserve townhomes in that area. And then further towards the south from there, just to the north of the hospital, there's a Wawa, and as I mentioned, a couple other like dentist offices and kind of more medical offices that are in that region. So if your medical office is anywhere near the hospital and you're familiar with where that region is there near Centaur or Obacy, this is tracking very, very close, or maybe just on the eastern side. Now, well, look at the latest scan. It has it really right over the YMCA and the hospital, so right near Elephant Fork.
Yeah, and so we're watching this area on radar very closely. If you could switch back just to the regular radar mode so we can take a look at where the rainfall is. See, it's hard to pick up where this area of tornado could be because sometimes we look for a hook on the radar where it has a certain signature to it, so it kind of has a comma shape in a way down below it. But in this case, there's so much rain all over the place, you can't quite see it on radar. And that's the same thing for when you're looking outside. Let's say you're off in the distance. Let's say you live near Driver or something and you're looking this direction. You can't see the tornado because it's wrapped in rainfall. It's blocked by all the curtain of rain that's around the tornado and then also just falling generally outside of it from the thunderstorm too. So that's what we're watching with this storm. That tornado warning goes for a bit longer. We're waiting to see if they change the path of this or if they adjust where this is going to go here coming up into the future. So we're watching for that. We're also watching that countdown clock that's right there on the side of me that says 5 minutes left for the track and field final. We're going to bring that to you too as well for Grant Holloway because that's a very important race for all of us here in Hampton Roads. So we'll be watching that. We're not going to be doing this for a little moment while he's doing his race. Thankfully, the race is fast. And he's the fastest.
He's very fast, too.
Yeah, he's the fastest, so we don't have to be too concerned about that. But this is what we have again on radar. A tornado warning for areas around downtown Suffolk. Now the majority of the rotation is just starting to move north of downtown Suffolk. Ricky? I
wanted to point out that it is north. So Red Top, Kings Fork area, the Kings Fork high school area, the hospital once again, and it's kind of just north of there, but the river comes in through there, just the south of Chuckatuck and Oakland Elementary School. There's Dominion Energy has a kind of a truck depot that's along that road that goes north out of the downtown area of Suffolk. Jeff, that is a very strong signature right over Red Top. Wherever we see those very bright colors show up there, that tells us that there very well could be a tornado on the ground with this. I'm not seeing any debris right now, but if I was living in that area, I would be seeking shelter. And when we say that as meteorologists, you really want to take it seriously. In addition to that, I want to point out to you and kind of just keep our eye on this additional area of something maybe trying to get going here in the southern part of the city of Suffolk, kind of in the same area. Nothing.
Right, and this is the zone right here you're looking at?
Yeah.
So look at the difference here in terms of the colors, and you can see this too. It's darker areas of red, kind of muddy, mixed out with some gray, and then you have this little area of green here. Not very apparent. That's why we don't have a warning on it. We're watching for it to see if this could maybe intensify in a little bit. Mainly sitting over the Great Dizzle Swamp right now, so that's something that we'll have to watch for. Now compare that to areas where we have the tornado warning. See how much brighter it is. That wind going towards the radar, or the bright red where the wind is going away from the radar. So you have that circulation right there, and that really fast wind speed right over spots in Red Top around Suffolk right now. Just to the east of Kings Fork is where we have this really intense spot of rotation. Again, all of these areas, I would still be seeking shelter in a room without windows. That's the lowest level of your home. If you're in a townhome, again, get in that room without windows as this tornado and this tornado-warned storm moves to the north. If we could get one more time to arrival, Ricky, because I know we're getting close to the track and field here. I want to give give a few more spots so everyone can expect and where this thing is going. And again, we're looking at time to arrival for spots into Chuckatuck at 3:48. Wesley Chapel, United Methodist Church at 3:48 as well. But Oakland, that's in about 3 minutes from now at 3:47 p.m. Ricky?
That system too is, like I said, right near Red Top, and let's even draw that a little bit further north, Jeff, from what you just said, only because in between the time of us saying that and you reading those names, it kind of updated on us. So if we draw that ahead of the circulation, we're talking once again 3:46, Oakland Elementary, Whitehead's Grove, 3:49. And as we tell you these times, give yourself a minute or two on either side of this so that we can kind of make sure you are in a safe place as the storm approaches, because this is moving very quickly, probably with the strongest signature we've seen all day show up on radar north of the city of Suffolk and moving north of the Red Top area.
Ricky, if you could go to the correlation coefficient, the debris signature, and take a look at that. I'm seeing something that's starting to maybe be a little bit more apparent in that kind of same area. And if you maybe scrub the time back a little bit and go forward, you can kind of see how it moves following that rotation. So that's the area that we're seeing where there may have been the tornado or the tornado is on the ground. So these are things that we're looking at in the cloud and in the storm. That is not rain droplets. It wouldn't be hailstones. It would be something else, which would be debris, pieces of trees, pieces of a shed, things like that. You get the idea. So that's what we're watching for, and it looks like there's some changes with that tornado warning.
Yeah, they've extended it northward. So they basically have continued this tornado warning into more of Isle of Wight County and continued the warning that we have been tracking, because it just looks very noteworthy here on the velocity signature. So this is a really good call to continue this tornado warning north into Isle of Wight County. So as we approach 3:45 here, we're almost at 3:45. What we're going to do is I want to make sure we give you one storm track here and extend this north and west. If you're in Smithfield or even Rushmere over the next 45 to 15 minutes, or let's say 15 to 30 minutes, because these are moving pretty quickly. Heads up, Chuckatuck 3:47, Muddy Cross 3:52, Smithfield 3:58, Lawson 4 o'clock, and Rushmere around 4:06. So that is the time of arrival for this thunderstorm, which has the tornado warning on it. Now let's show you where it's at now and where it's going to be in the next, let's say, 1 to 2 minutes. It's basically along 5 Mile Road. So here's Everett's further north and west from there. North and west of there, north of there is Audubon Road. We also have Longview Drive, Moore Farm Road, Milner's Road is near there, Quaker Road, this is getting into Isle of Wight now, and Longview Drive, that's where this possible tornado is. As Jeff kind of alluded to, the rotation was a little bit stronger earlier, and Jeff, and folks in the newsroom too, if you can hear me, let's reach out to the city of Suffolk and make sure everything's good there. And if you are in the city of Suffolk and you have any damage reports you can relate to us safely, you can do so by going to wavy.com/reportit and sending us some of those pictures. The interesting thing about this system is it still has a pretty good rotation signature as it moves north. I think it's going to go kind of to the west, Jeff, of Chuckatuck.
Yep.
But if you're in between Chuckatuck and Kings Fork and Suffolk, I would make sure you stay in your safe place here.
Yep, this is the time to be in a safe place. Now, we're also watching this very closely, the 110-meter final that's about to come up. We're going to quickly take a break for that, bring that to you full screen, and then we're going to come right back here on WAVY TV. The crawl on the bottom of the screen still has the current information for the warning. We'll continue to watch this warning very closely, but again, any areas in this room, seek shelter immediately. We're going to be right back here on WAVY TV to keep you up to date with this warning as the storm continues to move to the north. The area of rotation does not look to be as tight and as pronounced as it did earlier. I'm not saying that this is not a dangerous storm, still is, but this is one thing that we're going to keep monitoring and watching as this tornado warning that goes for areas all the way until 4:15 farther to the north, including Smithfield. You'll want to be seeking shelter immediately in that safe room. So this is now for Smithfield as the storm moves out of Suffolk. And we're watching that closely. Again, that rotation has all been the sign of where that tornado has been. Ricky?
All right, so if it's okay with you, Jeff, I'd say we'll take Olympics full now, and we'll be back here in a minute with additional coverage of severe weather across our region. area, but it still has a little bit of a signature here that the Weather Service is continuing with this tornado warning for as it makes its way through Isle of Wight. The actual strongest part of the rotation would probably be right to the west of Longview, kind of where there's a little nick right here in the rotation signature. If you are further towards the south into Chuckatuck and Everett, you're clear of that circulation, but I want to go further south of the city of Suffolk once again, and kind of right on the eastern side of the city of Suffolk, and point out this other area of some minor rotation that's showing up here. Not as strong as it was earlier, but if you were hit by the first storm, you're about to have another one move over you with some heavy rain and the possibility of some gusty winds. Outside of that, there is no other major area of storms going on. And Jeff, I think for maybe the first time here in the last, I forget what time we went on air, 3 hours ago or something like that, I can kind of say that there's nothing else downstream, which is good for now. However, that tornado watch goes until 8 p.m. tonight. Debbie's circulation is still way over here, and you can see some other tornado warnings in central North Carolina.
Yeah, there's one over there too. Yep.
There are more bands kind of trying to form down here. So it could be a long night, even maybe morning of tomorrow before we're totally done with this entire tornado threat. And they've updated that warning here across Isle of Wight, so I'm going to zoom back in and I'll let you kind of decipher what you see here on the screen.
Yeah, and actually if we could switch to Max 2, I just want to kind of do a quick overview of the forecast of this whole storm system too, and we'll also dive right back into the storm, because I want to show you kind of the whole setup of what's been happening, what's going on as we go into the next couple of hours, and what goes on as we go into tonight. Thank you for that. So here's a look once again at Debbie, the storm system, the center of it far to our west. We have these bands of rain that are coming in, that moisture coming in off of the ocean. The reason that we've been seeing so many tornado warnings in such a small, confined geographical area has been all focused around these bands. When we think of a day where we have severe weather in April or in May or June, for example, we get a front that comes through and it develops the storms. But in this case, this isn't a front. This is its own environment, and it kind of controls its own weather in a way. So that's why we have these pockets and these areas where there's chances for severe weather. And it's always on the right side of the main storm or the main area of circulation, or to the east of it in this case, where we have these bands. These bands can have more circulation with them, and that's why we have this tornado warning again for Isle of Wight County until 4:15 p.m. This has been the same storm that's been tracking to the north along this whole route right here, but you can see in a way there's also an end to where that band is too. That's starting to lift to the north. A little bit of rain around Chesapeake right now, a little bit of rain into Portsmouth, but not severe. Where it is severe, we have to go back to Isle of Wight County. Here's Smithfield, downtown Smithfield. Here's the area where there is that rotation right now. So this is the spot where there's that possible tornado. Again, in Smithfield, if you are in this area, seek shelter in the lowest level of your home in a room without windows. This storm has had a history of having very impressive looking rotation or a very strong tornadic likely storm. We haven't had a report of a tornado yet, but that doesn't mean that we haven't had one or haven't had one that's gone up and touched back down and then gone back up again. So this is the area that we're watching, that spot of rotation that's moving to the north and the northwest at about 35 miles an hour. So if you're in Smithfield or anywhere just to the north and west of Smithfield, time to seek shelter in that safe room. Here's a loop of the last hour for these thunderstorms and this band of rainfall. Still looking quiet across the peninsula, looking good into Virginia Beach, and into northeast North Carolina now. You're not seeing as much activity. Zooming out once again, you can kind of get the whole idea on what's happening. We have this one band of rain here. We also have other areas of rain that are off to the west, but not too much developing down to the south right now. But as we go on into the night, that's what we're going to watch for. What's going to happen in the next couple of hours? Right now it's almost 4 p.m. and we're looking ahead an hour from now. We see a couple of showers still across Elizabeth City, Currituck County, and also farther to the south of Ahoskie. At 6 o'clock, which is 2 hours from now, not as much rainfall indicated on the future track, but we still have some more lifting into the peninsula, Virginia Beach, and also into the Middle Peninsula. So that still is something that we'll be watching for into the evening. Will there be a tornadic threat for the Hampton Road cities on the south side and also into the peninsula? We've already seen it for Suffolk, but what about areas in Portsmouth or Hampton or Newport News or Poquoson? That's what we're going to be watching for here in just the next couple of hours. Now we're looking at 9 p.m., that area of rainfall, still a little bit of rain across the Hampton Road cities. However, there's more bands of rain that are near Ahoskie at that time. And that's all part of Debbie that's rotating and spinning and working its way up to the north, eventually to move out of our area. But this is the view for the next couple of hours going into tonight and about 12 hours from now. We still have these bands of rain that are moving in from Debbie. As we look at that severe weather risk, the area with the highest chance to see storms going into later tonight and into tomorrow is up to the north, but also into tomorrow, we still have that chance to see some stronger storms as well. So that's what we have going on right now as we look to Super Doppler 10, that area of rain. We're now going to switch back to what source were you on, Ricky?
So here's what I want to do. We have a couple of interesting things going on. So I want to show you the power outages. That'll be on Max 3. And then Steve actually has a video he's working to get into our system of what was at least a wall cloud or some type of circulation as it moved over Suffolk earlier. So he's going to work on that. And Steve, whenever you're ready, just give us the thumbs up and we'll pop that up here. But you can see on the Virginia energy map here, the Dominion energy map, there are certainly some power outages in parts of the city of Suffolk and Gates County. That was the areas that have really been impacted the most. So it makes the most sense that we have the most outages there. Not a tremendous amount. It's not thousands, hundreds of thousands of people without power. But the yellow area there is anywhere between around 200 or 300 people and 1,000 outages. And then that green shading, that is under 250. So, not the most people, but obviously if you're without power right now in that area, you feel like you certainly are being impacted by that. So that was likely from the storms that moved across that area earlier. We still have that one tornado warning in effect, which has a signature you can pick out pretty easily there between Smithfield and Central Hill. That'll be moving north and west. So eventually this will be moving into more of Surrey County. I think it will stay to the south and west of Rushmere, Jeff, but as we continue in time here over the next little bit, that system could get kind of close to that area as we go a little bit further off into time. So it is 4 o'clock here on the dot. We are in severe weather coverage here on WAVY News 10 as we continue to track a tornado warning in effect for parts of Isle of Wight until around 4:15 this afternoon. It's only Isle of Wight that's in this tornado warning. And as we zoom out, there's no other major areas of rotation we're tracking. And if you've been with Steve and I and Jeff for the last couple of hours, it seemed like whenever we said, okay, that tornado's starting to move away, well, another circulation popped up. Finally now, looks like we're kind of on the edge and maybe we're at the end of these tornado circulations. But still, for the next 15 minutes, we got to watch this storm here over parts of Isle of Wight moving towards the Surrey County area. So this storm, as it continues to kind of track its way to the north, will have the potential to produce additional severe weather and another isolated tornado. So as we put a storm track on this, and we'll kind of see if we can draw everything up onto here and show you what's going on, it's this area. You can kind of see a little hook right in through there that has the best chance of being where this tornado is. I'll zoom in tighter for you. And they've just trimmed the warning back, so we can kind of give some all clears now too. Money Cross, you're outside the warning now. You're fine, no problems there. Smithfield area, and let's see if we can load our Smithfield camera and see what is going on in that region, if it will pop up for us. We have a camera that is located at Windsor Castle Park, and we'll see if that wants to load in. And you can see, obviously, tremendous amounts of rain coming down. And I show you this to also point out that this is what it's going to look like before the tornado may approach your area. You're not going to see a whole lot. You're just going to see these cloudy areas in most cases, and then kind of a wall of water approaching before that tornado circulation moves over your region. So don't go outside and try to see these. These are going to be rain wrapped and really hard to spot with your naked eye, unless they manage to separate themselves from the main area of rain, and so far this one has not done so. So we look into Smithfield again. The rotation is just here on the southwest side of Smithfield, near the Foursquare area, near Magnet. That area is south and west of Windsor Castle Park, and it's in an area where it's a lot of kind of some rural roads, and there's kind of, if you're familiar with the Smithfield area, there's a traffic light signal on the western side there. As you make your turn, it takes you more towards Isle of Wight from Smithfield. That's pretty much where this tornado circulation is right now, right near that region, or just the west of that region is where that tornado circulation is. The stoplight I'm referencing is actually right here, and then there's a couple businesses, a couple things are through here, and then you get into a little more rural areas. You get out towards the Foursquare area, towards Magnet, and areas west of Smithfield. But that's where the circulation is right now, moving north and west, eventually towards the Surrey County region. So as we zoom out, and I'll put a storm track on this, as it moves to the north and west at around 35 miles per hour, that's going to take it into some of these areas across the northwestern side of the city or the county of Isle of Wight, and then eventually towards Rushmere and kind of between there and Delk Crossroads in the next 20 minutes. So a storm track puts it towards SEPTA 406, Moonlight 410, Poolsville 416, California Crossroads at 420, and Chip Oaks Plantation State Park around 421. The ferry that you take to get across is a little bit further north and west of there, the Jamestown Scotland ferry. That's further north from there and north of where this circulation is, and not in the warning right now. But we'll see if the Weather Service continues this warning into parts of Surrey, and based off the rotation, I wouldn't be shocked if they do so. Speaking of rotation, a little bit earlier, we did have a video that was sent to us by a viewer. Meteorologist Steve Fundero has that he can show you on Max 1, I believe, Steve?
Yeah, we'll pop back up here to camera 1. Let's go back in time. About an hour ago, maybe more than that, or less than that, 3:27 p.m., we were talking about the area, southern fringes of the thunderstorm as it was moving into Suffolk, and it was lining up the back of the Great Dismal Swamp along White Marsh Road. This is what at that time period at 3:27 the rotation looked like. We were looking at these two bright areas of green and red, and then this is what it looks like to your naked eye outside of the window. This little walling, so to speak, or lowering of the thunderstorm is a connotation of a rotating thunderstorm or a potential tornado as the thunderstorm gets closer and closer down to the ground here. So here, the tree line here, this was the western fringes of the Great Dismal Swamp there. You see the flashes of lightning. White Marsh Road, got to thank Mike for sending this one in to us. Again, if you have any other picture or images of the of weather outside in your neighborhood, be sure to use wavy.com/report it. It gives us a better idea of what's going on in our neighborhood and what's going on in your community here to get us a better picture of the actual events unfolding in our neck of the woods here. So doesn't necessarily look, I mean, we can't tell if this was actually a tornado or not, but it gives us a better idea. See the brighter skies to the left side of your screen here and the lowering on this video of the cloud off towards the west, the wall cloud, so to speak, the thunderstorm moving along that Great Dismal Swamp area near White Marsh Road. So thanks, Mike, for sending this in, giving us a better idea of, okay, maybe that was something that was verifying as it moved northward into Suffolk and then eventually into downtown Suffolk. And then, it tells us, hey, we're relaying the message out to the Suffolk Emergency Management, say, hey, is there any reports of damage out there? Is everyone doing okay? And we could check in with downtown Suffolk to see what had potentially unfolded out that way. All right, the warning in Isle of Wight now, what Ricky was looking at earlier. I want to do a broader just reset to give you guys a better idea that there's not much else rain left. I mean, we have a few downpours near Ahoskie and Gates, but they don't have a lot of lightning. Could have a little bit of rotation with them, so we'll watch it closely. Seeing a few raindrops across Greenbrier and Chesapeake, but otherwise, bulk of the action is shifting northwestward here as this last little gasp of the rain band is pushing up towards the Isle of Wight area. Satellite radar, we blow up the picture just a little bit more. The center of rotation still far down to our southwest, so we still have some time to deal with this system. We got to do it in a slow pace here because we do have more storms in the forecast later on tonight out of these rain bands. You see how these are quickly moving towards Raleigh and into central North Carolina. There's some gaps in between them, so it gives us a little bit of a break as we head towards the next couple of hours here. Maybe by 7, 8 o'clock, we just see a few downpours kind of racing in around the coastline. Stronger thunderstorm activity still off towards the southwest, but as the storm makes more of that northerly turn and then starts to bend northeastward, we're talking about late night thunderstorms now moving in from the west. So we watch that unfold and could watch that unfold off towards the I-95 corridor overnight tonight. So we get a little break after the thunderstorms that are out there now. They're going to move out pretty quickly here as we continue to watch them. That one near Smithfield now still ongoing. Ricky's looking at some of the correlation coefficient to see if there's any reports of or any signatures of debris. As we go into the overnight tonight, we do have another line of some thunderstorms to look out for. So let's go back towards Ricky right now. I'm seeing what you're looking at right now on CC. Yeah. And that's pretty much, that's pretty much where Mike took that video from and sent it into us.
So, and we're seeing a stronger area of rotation on the storm too since you've been talking, Steve. So this is the area right here. This is the spot where that tornado warning, again, we're looking right around Smithfield, just to the north and west of Smithfield. See how the green has gotten a lot brighter? So this area of wind or rotation has gotten a lot stronger. When it was a little duller earlier, it wasn't as strong of a zone of spin, but it's starting to kind of spin back up a little bit. It's starting to strengthen back up a bit, and if we track that moving to the north and also moving to the northwest, that brings it into a few more communities, and we'll mention them outside of the warned area. That brings it into Poolsville at 4:17. Right now it's 4:08 p.m. And then we go to California Crossroads at 4:21. Chip Oaks Plantation at the state park at 4:22. Great state park. I've done some observing there at night for star parties, for looking at astronomy. Nice clear area. There's a lot of tall trees though in this region too, so you can't see that tornado coming if you are trying to look for it. And you do not want to be trying to look for it because it's wrapped in rainfall and there's also those trees. So anywhere along Route 10 heading towards Surrey and eventually near the Surrey power plant, that's the zone where this storm is moving towards, especially right along Route 10 from Rushmere all the way to the north and west is where we have this zone of rotation that's spinning and moving to the north. Ricky?
So if we look at a little more detailed map here, this is near the Gennevar area. There is a Dollar General between Rushmere and north and west of there towards Bacon's Castle. So Bacon's Castle, there's a Slade Farms is out in that general region. White Marsh Road is in that general region along 617. And then you get into County Road 616, Unity Tabernacle. There's a Dixie Excavating and Hauling that's in that region. I think probably the most noticeable one, the one most people may know, is the Bacon's Castle region. And then the Dollar General that's there near New Branch Farms as well. All that area, if you're familiar with any of those spots that I just called out, make sure you're in your tornado safe place. That is the centermost part of your home, away from windows, and on the lowest level of your house. So right here, this is kind of the general spot of where you want to be. And it's the lowest floor, interior room, hallway, bathroom, closet. If you have a motorcycle or a football helmet, if you have any type of helmet at all, you can take that and put it on your head. Why? Well, it protects you when you're riding a bike. It protects you while you're playing a sport. Same thing in a tornado. It protects you from any type of flying debris that may be lofted. You make sure you put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. I know this is an exterior room here, but why do I have that one still highlighted? Well, a lot of times bathrooms have extra pipes or metal pipes that go through them. A lot of times they're PVC now, but they have that pipe insulation, and that can provide a little bit extra protection from any type of flying debris that's lofted by this storm. Jeff, I want to switch back to velocity because this is, I said this earlier about the Suffolk storm, but now this is the strongest rotation I've seen all day, and it's actually very close to the radar site. So the radar beam we're going off of is here at the National Weather Service in Wakefield, and this is a very strong rotational signature near the SEPTA area, just to the north of Bethany Church Road, between there and Moonlight, and heading towards the kind of southwest side of Rushmere. I expect they will issue a new tornado warning that will include a lot of the county of Surrey here, or Surrey County, over the next little bit. So Highway 31, Highway 10, Beachland, Surrey downtown area, and then kind of on the western side here near Highgate, kind of west of the power plant. I'd be making sure you have a place you're going to go as this tornado circulation continues to make its way north. And as you look at the track, you can see it's kind of making its way right up through here. So if we were to draw a track off of, there's the new warning, if we were to draw a track off of that, you would get a general idea of where this is going. And now there's the new tornado warning from the National Weather Service. So let's show you what's included in that and what is not included in that. And we say this because many of you are probably getting the alert on your cell phone, or if you're not, you may momentarily, in this region. Now this does include a little bit of James City County. So now we're going across the James River into parts of the peninsula, parts of the region that I'm very familiar with, and this storm will be making its way north and west. So if you're in James City, you still have some time, but it's for this area here right into Isle of Wight, south of and west of Rushmere, that'll be advancing north and west. So all of pretty much the northern side of Surrey, all the way to pretty much where the James River comes across, through Chip Oaks Plantation State Park, through the power plant region, and including where the Jamestown Scotland Ferry comes across. That's the area we're watching for this tornado, which, as we look at this tornado signature, it is a very impressive rotational signature being indicated, and it is not far off the ground. We can look at how far this is away from the radar site, and it's only 1,000 feet above the ground. And so basically what radar does is it goes out and it scans at an angle. So if I'm the radar beam, I'm kind of scanning up in the northerly direction or kind of in the up direction. And so what happens is the radar beam goes out, and the further away you get from the radar beam, the higher you're sampling in the atmosphere. Closer to the radar beam, towards the Wakefield area, we get lower readings on the radar. So that's why this is showing up very, very well here, just to the west of Rushmere. So I want to put a storm track on this. We'll make sure we have the estimated speed, which is moving at 35 miles per hour, and we'll make sure we give everyone that is in the path of this storm a heads up. So I'm going to put this cone just a little bit in advance of where the red and the green come together, because we want to make sure we give you a heads up. So Ferguson Grove Church 415, Poolsville 418, Chip Oaks Plantation State Park 423, Alliance 425. Give yourself a little bit of time on either one of those, and also keep in mind, if you're watching me on a live stream, you're watching us on Hulu or YouTube or something like that, our coverage may be about a minute and a half behind sometimes because of just the limitations of streaming. So keep that in mind as we give you these times. It's 4:14 right now as we speak here on air. It may be a little bit further off into time as you get that alert to you. Once again, this tornado indicated by radar is just between Moonlight and Rushmere. This is Highway 10. There's Poolsville. Just to the kind of north and west of Rushmere, there's a Dollar General along Route 10. The Genevar community, that's Colonial Trail East that runs through there. Pools Creek. We also have Hickory Grove Memorial Cemetery. Slade Farms. There's another area up near Bacon's Castle where there's a grocery store, or kind of a convenience store, I should say, gas station up in that region. Old Brick Church, which is part of Bacon's Castle's up in that region, and then North Nebo Baptist Church is north and west of there. So those are all the areas that are kind of in line of this thunderstorm moving into that region. Eventually, you'll get into more of Chip Oaks State Park. There's Alliance, there's a airsoft field, an RC track in that region, and then there is Poplar Lawn Baptist Church, kind of more towards Chip Oaks State Park, further north and west there. But a pretty strong rotation signature showing up there to the west of Rushmere. I'm not seeing anything jump out on correlation coefficient or any type of debris showing up with this, but it certainly has the potential to produce a tornado, and produce one very quickly as it makes its way to the north and west. So California Crossroads, Poolsville, heads up, this storm is heading towards you. 4:15 here this afternoon as we continue severe weather coverage on WAVY News 10. All right, so here is the big picture of everything. That's really the only game in town. There's no other major areas of severe weather that we are tracking in our region. But I want to zoom things out, because Jeff and Steve have been doing a great job of kind of giving you a picture of what's going to happen this afternoon. Well, as they were saying, look here towards Rocky Mount. If you were watching us this morning around, I think it was 9 a.m. or so, there were some tornado warnings near Rocky Mount. Then what happened as we went through the hours following that is that band moved to the north and west, and then additional bands tried to form out here. So will the same thing repeat itself? It's possible as Debbie continues to make its way north, but you notice a couple more tornado warnings near Rocky Mount. That kind of gives me a feeling that we could have some more active weather here as we go through the overnight hours, as that tornado watch continues, Jeff, until 8 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, that's a feeling that we have, because we have the watch that goes for another about 4 hours, and we also have other spots that Ricky was just pointing out that are strong. But also one other concern too is the amount of rainfall that we've been seeing with this, and I can see you already getting ready to pull those up. So we have the rainfall estimates here. These are the last 3 hours, just radar estimates, and when you see the color of yellow, that's when we're starting to talk some significant rainfall. We're seeing rainfall amounts that could be around 2 to 3 inches in just the last couple of hours, in the last 3 hours. So there's also a little bit of a flooding concern too that's happening, and a flash flooding concern too, around areas into Suffolk and also north of Suffolk as well, where we have the rain that's coming down and that tornado warned storm too. But that's, again, we have the flood advisory that's in place. That's kind of the step below the flash flood warning. So we have a lot of ponding that's probably happening on the roads or the low-lying areas around Suffolk. We, of course, had that strong storm, that tornado-warned storm move through not too long ago. So heavy rainfall in this one corridor from all of these severe storms that we've been having for the last couple of hours. Meteorologist Steve Fundero and Ricky Matthews have been here with you since the first tornado warning happened this afternoon. We had that watch that came out late last night. I was here when that happened. We've been under watch almost, not for 24 hours, but a good solid 12 hours or so for most areas, even longer than that if I can do my math right in my head. But one thing that we don't need to do math right in our head right now is this storm where we have the tornado warning, because it is starting to get a little bit closer to James City County and also parts of the peninsula, closer to Williamsburg too. Williamsburg, you're not in that warning, but you're just on the edge of it. So that's what we're keeping a close eye on. And also another question is what is going to happen as it moves over the James River? I don't really believe much will happen, as the water temperature of the James River is pretty warm now. It's not like it's early spring when the water could be a lot colder than the air if it was a warm spring day. We're not in that type of situation. So I don't believe there's going to be really much of any interaction with the water as the storm moves over the James River. It's something that we'll watch for, and it'll be interesting to observe. But you can see going into the past and going into now, one thing that is kind of apparent that I'm seeing, and Ricky, let me know if you disagree or agree, this area of rotation was very pronounced. Now it's kind of starting to fade away a little bit. So it's starting to look a little bit weaker, which is great news. Maybe the storm, excuse me, is starting to get a touch weaker, and that threat for a tornado may start to go away here as we go into the future. But right now it's this area of rotation that we're looking at near Poolsville right now, and also close to Highgate, right around Route 10, Highway 10, moving to the north. And then remember, there's a body of water between Chip Oaks and Jamestown, so this is about the cross over the James River. And that's what we're going to see happen here soon. So essentially the tornado warning, or the spot where there is that tornado, should be around the edge of the warned area, the top edge, close to 4:45 p.m. This is all calculated and drawn based on the forward speed of the storm, which we know has been around 35 miles an hour. We have this area of rotation here, so we can use our tool to calculate and predict where that one highlighted spot is right now and where it's going to go here as we look ahead into time. So that brings it into spots around Alliance at 4:23, Pleasant Point at 4:26, and then we're crossing the water into Jamestown around 4:32, and also near the yacht base in the marina around Jamestown and where that ferry is close to as well. That's at 4:32. So that's 12 minutes from now. So if you're in Jamestown, it's time to seek shelter in that safe room. If you have a loved one that says, hey, I'm going to try and get a picture of this thing coming across the river, there's rain everywhere right now with this storm. So you can't see it. Look at this. You're in a downpour in Jamestown, and we're in a downpour where that area of rotation is. So there's nothing to see with this storm. It's all about the heavy rain that's moving in with the strong storm. Meteorologist Steve Fundero has an update. Steve.
Yeah, when you're referencing rain here, the National Weather Service has been mentioning, if we flip over camera one here really quick, now they're also monitoring not just the area of rotation, but the potential for flash flooding. These rain bands that set up, they are producing thunderstorms that just kind of go on top of each other and follow in one path here. There has not been a single drop of rain for Chesapeake and Virginia Beach in the last hour, but from Suffolk through Isle of Wight up to Surrey, you're talking about 1 to 2 to 3 inches of rainfall in the past 45 to 60 minutes. So all of that stuff can pile up pretty quickly and cause some issues on the roadway. So now we are going to be left with the flooding threat as the damaging wind threat starts to subside, as you were referencing up into Surrey, Jeff, earlier. We have to switch now to maybe a flooding threat. So there could be some big ponding on the roadways if you're driving around anytime soon. I don't recommend that because we are under a zone here of some severe weather. So just, hang tight and take it easy here. But these are tropical downpours and they move very fast. But when they do bring some rain, man, do they soak you with some rainfall. So that's just some inside baseball of what the National Weather Service has kind of been thinking of as well. They're just starting to monitor the potential for some flash flooding. I think these are moving very quick enough. And if we go back to radar, it doesn't look very prominent that there's additional rainfall behind this one thunderstorm. So along that one band of rain I was referencing where there was that significant rain, there's not much left over behind this. So this is really going to tail and cruise up to the north here, and we don't have that much additional rainfall farther to the south. And that's a good news to give us a little bit of a break. But we heard Ricky and Jeff talking earlier. There's additional severe thunderstorms or strong thunderstorms. There's additional tornado warnings off towards Rocky Mount, right? These are additional rain bands. So what will happen here in the next couple of hours is we're going to get a break in the action. We're going to get a break in the rainfall as this stuff starts to move to the north. It's going to be windy, it's going to be cloudy, it's going to be very muggy, and then we'll watch a second rain band start to set up, or I should say an additional one, because this isn't necessarily the first one we've had to deal with. An additional rain band will start to set up southwest of us. We're going to watch that closely into the late night hours tonight, maybe after sunset into the overnight as the system starts to pull up to the north and the northeast or so. So we're not out of the woods just yet, even though there is only one warning in town right now for Surrey, and now it's extending up towards the James River area. So we zoom in there. Let's get another look at what the rotation is doing. If there is a significant threat out of that rotation that we've been watching closely, it really starting to get broad in nature, but it's headed over the James River and getting close to it around the Surrey area. So right in Surrey, we have Alliance right there. We've got Chippewa State Park Visitor Center, Chippewa State Park's right there near Common Bay as we get into the James River. It's kind of right near the Jamestown Scotland Ferry. It's getting close, or that little span of strong wind right about here, getting into that the bay right here into the James River. The ferry comes out right here into Jamestown. So that's where this thing is headed. That's where the strongest of the wind is currently right now as this warning goes to about 4:45. So again, quick little reset. We've got one warning left up towards Surrey and parts of James City as it kind of extends into or extends over the James River here. It's the one tornado warning we are watching. Not much rain for the peninsulas and the south side. We've got a little bit of rain starting to move into Williamsburg. Williamsburg, if you don't necessarily get the potential of a spin up of a tornado, but there's a potential for some strong wind with that thunderstorm, and of course some heavier rain lifting into your region as this moves northward over the James River. The warning itself to about 4:45. All right, and this is the one we have in town, and the one that I would like to say will take us into the evening. We can get a little bit of a break, and then we'll watch for a threat of some thunderstorms later on tonight. We're going to watch these ones closely as well. We see a few downpours starting to pop up near the Currituck Sound. Nothing too dramatic, kind of some popcorn showers here or there. We'll get a couple of those passing through for our evening, watching this stronger thunderstorm cluster near the state line towards Franklin and Southampton. Other than that, we're going to get a bit of a break here through sunset, and then we'll welcome back a chance for some stronger severe weather or stronger thunderstorms later on tonight. Future Track kind of brings that in once we get closer to about the 9 or even 10 o'clock hour here. So we get a little bit of a break. Here's Future Track through 9, 10 o'clock. And then setting up late tonight, there could be some more of those rain bands, which are right now farther to our southwest. They can move in as we head into the late night hours here. So could be a rocky or bumpy ride overnight for some of us, not all of us here. But we'll keep you guys posted, of course, on air and online as conditions warrant here.
One thing I wanted to point out, Steve, is you kind of had the big picture here. I think this does a good vantage point of what's going on. You notice those tornado warnings down south, and I'll step on the screen here, and we can both step on the screen if you want to and point them out. But this warning here is probably going to track kind of north and west. Let's go back to camera 1. Sorry, we're throwing you for a curveball in the production center. But this warning here, it will probably end up tracking this way. Now, Steve, if you could zoom in a little bit more as we have our counties pop on. What I'm going to point out is here's Northampton County. Here is where we get into Hertford County and then Gates County. So I want to show you that storm near Greenville and then the storm east of there, because yes, they have no warnings right now. They don't look like much. But if we just kind of follow the general trend here, that storm near Greenville could clip parts of Northampton County, North Carolina. The storm to the east of there could end up moving into Bertie County and then eventually into Hertford and perhaps Southampton counties as we go further off into time. So that's something to keep an eye on. I'm hoping that we get a bit of a break once this warning expires here for parts of Surrey, Isle of Wight, and James City County. But for the next little bit, we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Continue to keep an eye on this cluster of showers and storms too, moving into Southampton and the western side there, the city of Suffolk and Isle of Wight, because that could produce a little more heavy rain. And as Steve and Jeff and I have been talking about, these areas have seen a lot of heavy rain over the last little bit of time. It is 4:26 here. We've been on with you for, I think, like 3.5 hours now, talking about all these various warnings that have just been moving along the same areas again and again and again. We continue to have no problems in Virginia Beach or Norfolk or Chesapeake or Hampton. All my friends in Hampton, nothing to worry about right now. All is good. It's just sprinkling in a few spots. But it's further north and west from there that we have to keep an eye on. You saw the warning box flash here. What they've done is they've removed Isle of Wight from that. So Isle of Wight, Smithfield, Rushmere, you're good now. No problems going on for you anymore. But Chip Oaks and places north and west of there, that's where we got to keep a close eye on things as this severe weather threat continues. I am not personally seeing any major areas of rotation jumping out at me. If there was anything showing up, it'd be right through there where Steve has circled between Surrey and Pleasant Point, just to the west of the power plant. That would be where the rotation is. But as we can we go back in time a little bit, Steve, and show you what it looked like? And even further off from there, you see there was this area rotation, a very well-defined area rotation across the Rushmere area and northwest of Smithfield. As that continues to make its way north and west over time, it's kind of just fallen apart, which is not atypical of these type of setups. They spin up quickly and they dissipate quickly. So I'm thinking this is really a lot weaker than what it was, which is good news as we continue to track that storm north and west. But in the Jamestown area, in the Pleasant Point area, you're still likely to get a little bit of some gusty winds and also the potential of some very, very heavy rain to fall in your region as the storm continues to make its way north and west. So Jamestown Yacht Basin 432, First Colony 434, Centerville 443, and Chickahominy Haven around 452 for the estimated time of arrival for that storm. It goes until 445, but we'll see if the Weather Service decides to drop this warning early or not. I'm going to jump off screen here and I'll kind of do a little bit of inside baseball, and we'll see
if they're thinking anything else.
What's going on
right now? The heavy rain, though, is starting to, even if there is some strong wind or not, we're getting some of that heavy rain to lift out of Surrey and eventually move into the Jamestown area into Williamsburg. So you're getting a little bit of some rain here. Nothing too bad, nothing you can't handle. We got a lot of rain down towards the Reynoldson area, which is just west of Suffolk. We got some in Southampton there, and across 58 near Franklin as well. Not lightning with this, just some pretty good rain. And when tropical downpours come down, they come down pretty hard here. So downpours out towards the Franklin area. Again, no lightning, occasionally getting some wind out of this. If I flip over to see what the wind is doing, I'm not seeing anything significant that promotes any rotation of sorts. So that's some good news as well. We zoom out the picture a little bit more, just some spotty little popcorn showers for Moyock and the Currituck Sound. And for those across northeastern North Carolina, we're looking okay. And then up towards the eastern shore, you guys are doing great. A little windy up there, that's for sure, with some clouds. The middle peninsulas and the northern neck, you're going to get a little bit of this rain too, which is kind of around the thunderstorm that is warned right now. That warning again towards 445. And we're just staying with you until we really see the threat truly diminishing here. We haven't seen too much of an issue in the past 10 minutes or so on these radar scans. But what we've also seen through the past 3 hours that we've been on air with you guys, these thunderstorms have kind of been pulsing. So sometimes they'll show strong areas of rotation, then they sort of settle down, and then they pulse back up. So I think National Weather Service is maybe thinking that as well, and why they are continuing that warning to about 445.
Here's what I think maybe we should do, Steve, if you're okay with this, and Jeff has kind of chimed in into his thoughts as well. Why don't we stick with this for another minute or two? We'll see, get another radar scan, see if it cycles back up. If it doesn't, we're going to go off and return you to full screen coverage here of the Olympics. And if any additional warnings are issued, we'll be back on. But we'll give this another minute or two to kind of breathe, see how things are going, see if we see anything that jumps out to us as a big threat here. But I'll be honest, the rotation to me has really fallen apart from what it was earlier, which is good news. We don't want it to spin back up, and I think the system, at least right now, looks a lot weaker than it did. And so that warning was already canceled for Isle of Wight. It was continued for the areas north and west of there in James City and Surrey. But with about another little under 10 minutes or so on this warning, I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to cancel it altogether. But here's the catch. There are more storms out there that could turn strong to severe, including one that is in the Rocky Mountain area, and all these are kind of west of our region, but something we should keep an eye on over time.
Way west of these regions. We've had breaks in the rain bands. There's been one, then a little bit of a lull, then there's been another, then a little bit of a lull. And what we're seeing is right now that lull is a little bit of a calming, but there's some additional thunderstorms that Ricky was pointing out, which have tornado warnings associated with them. They're closer to the center of the system, which is still far to our southwest. So those are the ones that are likely going to come up the I-95 corridor as we head through our evening, and then they'll get close to home as we head towards the late night hours for us. So I'm going to give you the satellite and radar picture here, Jeff, so we can see a little bit more of where this is in relation to the center of the system, which is still way off way off towards the southwest. Taking the polygons out here, and then I'm going to drop the visible satellite so we can see it a little bit clearer there with the center of rotation farther down to the southwest.
Perfect. So again, we're just watching this whole storm lift to the north. These are the bands that we're going to continue to monitor as we go on into tonight. If there are any watches or warnings that change, we'll be here to let you know. But just to kind of give you a little programming note as we're going on into tonight, our newscasts are going to begin at 5 p.m. on Fox 43. The Olympics will be right here on WAVY TV 10. So you can still come here for the Olympics. We're still going to be on Fox 43 for our 5 p.m. newscast, our 5:30, 6 o'clock, and even the 6:30 newscast. So we're going to continue to watch these storms. So if you want to watch to see what happens with these, if we get some additional warnings, that's where we're going to be, and we'll let the Olympics continue on WAVY TV. So that's where we are for tonight. We're now going to let the Olympics go back full screen. We'll see you back here on our newscast coming up at 5 o'clock. We'll now go back to regular programming. It'll be me. Could you, Steve, can you pop that over to 2, please? Yeah.
No.
No. Yeah, just camera 1.
Are you recording?
Yes.